Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Amita Rari, and coming up in today's newscast, the State of Israel is uniting to commemorate the fallen soldiers and victims of terror. Meantime, thousands visiting Mount Herzl Military Cemetery in Jerusalem ahead of Memorial Day to learn and listen to the stories of the fallen. And later, ILTV hosting a bereaved sister, bringing her brother's favorite childhood dish into our studio, a recipe of endless memories. The sounding of siren at 8 p.m. followed immediately by the National Memorial Ceremony at the Western Wall with President Herzl, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and IDF Chief of Staff Herzl in attendance. That's the sign of start of the day on which we all commemorate. Memorial Day events remembering the fallen soldiers and victims of terror beginning right now as the State of Israel is commemorating its fallen in ceremonies all over the country. Just a few seconds ago, a minute-long memorial siren sounded across the country, marking the opening of the Day of Remembrance for the Fallen of Israel. Immediately after it, the memorial rallies will be starting throughout the country with a state ceremony to light a memorial candle at the Western Wall Plaza in Jerusalem in the presence of President Herzl, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and Chief of Staff Herzl. Tomorrow at 8:30 a.m., the name reading of the fallen will begin at the Memorial Hall on Mount Herzl, and at 11 a.m., a 2-minute siren will sound. At the end of the siren, the state ceremony will begin on Mount Herzl, with just 2 minutes later, a flight of fighter jets will pass over the military cemetery and Memorial Hall on Mount Herzl. At 1 p.m., the state memorial ceremony for the victims of terror will begin. The ceremonies will be held against the backdrop of public criticism, also among bereaved families, towards members of the government and the political disputes in the country. Thousands of bereaved families requested that politicians refrain from attending ceremonies at military cemeteries this year due to possible protests and commotion. Following the criticism, many ministers and government members canceled their arrival to the state ceremonies in the cemeteries, among them Housing and Construction Minister MK Yitzhak Goldknopf and Culture and Sports Deputy Minister Yaakov Tessler from the United Torah Judaism. In a column published by Chief of Staff Herzl, he called for leaving the controversy surrounding the legal revolution out of the Memorial Day events, writing, "Remembrance Day establishes a deep connection between the personal and national. This year, in the shadow of tensions, we must focus on the personal memory and wrap ourselves in its human strength." 24,213 pre-state fighters and IDF soldiers died in battle since 1860, according to an announcement by Israel's Defense Ministry on Friday. 59 soldiers died in the past year, with this year also commemorating victims of terror. 4,255 people have been killed since 1951, and among them, 31 killed during the past year. A special edition of ILTV will be broadcast on Wednesday, marking Israel's 75th Independence Day. The broadcast will include several exclusive interviews, including with Minister Amichai Shikli, former NBA and Maccabi Tel Aviv basketball coach David Blatt. We will also present an interview with Rabbi Leo D., whose wife and 2 daughters were murdered in a terrorist attack earlier this month. And here's a clip from ILTV Steve Leibovich's interview with Rabbi D. Despite his personal loss, the rabbi's message of positivity has been striking.
Human beings can be looked at from two perspectives, the physical and the spiritual. And from a physical perspective, we've lost 3 beautiful ladies, my wife, who I loved for 25 years, 2 daughters. And if I think about the loss, it's devastating. However, from a spiritual perspective, I look at it in a slightly different light. I say that 15 years ago, Rena's light was lit. 20 years ago, Maya's light was lit. And 48 years ago, Lucy's light was lit. And those candles have lit other candles, and those candles that they've lit have lit other candles. And there's been a spreading of light through their lives.
Ahead of Israel's Memorial and Remembrance Day, many thousands visited Mount Herzl Military Cemetery in Jerusalem. Most were there to learn about Israel's fallen, dating back to pre-state days and until today. ILTV Steve Leibovich joined them.
Mount Zion is also known as Har HaZikaron, or Mount of Remembrance. Named after the founder of modern Zionism, Theodor Herzl, the site is home to Israel's National Cemetery and memorial facilities. Mount Herzl is the burial place of 5 former Israeli prime ministers and presidents. Also buried on Mount Herzl are other prominent Jewish and Zionist leaders. Ahead of Memorial Day, which began this evening, Mount Herzl in Jerusalem and 35 other military cemeteries around the country are visited by many thousands of soldiers and students who want to learn about the fallen of Israel's many wars and conflicts dating back to pre-state days. On the days leading up to Memorial Day, Israeli flags are placed on each of the grave sites, and the memorial candle is lit. Mount Herzl becomes the site of pilgrimage for countless school trips and units of young soldiers, all there to learn about those who had fallen over the generations. Most of those at the cemetery do not personally know any of those buried. This man came to say a remembrance prayer for a Moldovan-born soldier who he heard receives no other visitors.
I'm here because I have a friend in Bet Shemesh, and her brother, he lost his life in 2004, I think, and now I came because it is quiet, not tomorrow, after tomorrow, and I have to wait for not too much people to say a special prayer.
These U.S. Yeshiva Gap Year students want to learn more about and honor the fallen.
The school wanted us to know the importance of what all these people have done, how they sacrificed their lives in honor of Israel and for Jews as a whole. And really just it hits deep knowing that every one of these people had their own story. And so we both, our whole group, we all lit a candle.
So we took a picture of the graves that we lit candles at, and we're gonna search up who these people were and know their stories later on, so their stories go on in the future.
The cemetery is divided into many sections, each with a theme for the soldiers buried there. Some dated back to pre-state days, while others include fresh graves of soldiers who were killed this past year. All soldiers, regardless of rank or unit, are buried side by side. The gravestones are plain and unadorned, only recording name, rank, parents' names, and place and date of birth and death.
And now joining us on this important day on which the whole country is uniting over one common cause is Israeli journalist, attorney, and author Ben-Dror Yamini. Ben-Dror, the president, prime minister, defense minister, and opposition leaders are pleading with the public to keep potential protests outside of Memorial Day events. Do you expect that things will go smoothly?
Yeah, I'm expecting that not many, but even if it will be few, yes, it might happen. It might happen, and as much as I know that they will try to do something in Herzl Mountain and in some other places in order to keep on the protests, the demonstrations, and so on. It's not the time, and the call that we just heard from all the leaders, the presidents, the prime ministers, the leaders of the opposition. I mean, I do hope that they will listen to this kind of consensus that we have in Israel. No, not today, not in this day. We are commemorating the victims, and it's not the day to continue the protest just as usual.
And do you know anything that's done to stop it? I mean, to prevent this from happening?
It's up to them. It's up to them. I mean, we have to understand that when we are speaking about the Israeli protests, the Israeli demonstrations, we are not speaking about one organization. There is not even an umbrella organization to the so many groups that are participating the protest. So it's not that we can tell somebody don't do it and he will not do it, and so we don't really know what to expect. It might happen. I hope it will not really disturb all the ceremonies and mainly the families of the victims. I mean, for them it will be a tragedy. For them it will be a disaster. They don't want it. They asked the protesters, please don't do it. Not in the cemeteries, not in the so many ceremonies. But we don't know what might happen. We don't know.
We definitely have to respect them now. A number of government ministers and deputy ministers say they will stay away or not speak at memorial events this year out of concern that there could be disturbances. Did they make the right move?
I think yes. I mean, it's pity that we are in such a situation that for the first time, politicians are asked, please don't join the ceremonies. It's pity, but let me remind you that something of the kind already happened exactly a year ago when Prime Minister a year ago, Naftali Bennett, participated in the big ceremony, the main ceremony in Herzl Mountain. And some people from the Likud party just yelled at him, disturbed him, and it happened. I hope it will not happen again. I mean, the very fact that it happened a year ago, it doesn't mean that it should continue. And I do hope that it will not continue.
Ben-Or Yamini, thank you so much for joining us, and happy Independence Day tomorrow.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Israeli artillery was reported to have shelled the Hezbollah terrorist position in southern Syria overnight. The army also reportedly distributed flyers warning local militiamen to stop cooperating with the Iran-backed Lebanese-based terrorists. Syrian army officers were directly named in the flyers, and more in this report by ILTV's William Sharon.
The IDF has reportedly accused Assad's military of actively assisting Hezbollah, but now they are sending pointed and very personal warnings. Shortly after the early morning arterial strike hit a Syrian army observation post. Flyers appeared warning local militiamen to stop cooperating with Iranian-backed Lebanese-based terrorists. Clips circulating on social media showed what appeared to be a artillery shell flying across the night sky. The flyer read, "We are closely watching and aware of ongoing intelligence cooperation with Hezbollah within the Syrian army's position in the region, including near the Israeli border. Your cooperation with Hezbollah has brought more harm than benefit. Cooperation with Hezbollah leads to harm." The flyer included images of 2 senior Syrian officers who were alleged to have been aiding Hezbollah. Those named were Major General Samar ad-Dahan, Syria's chief military intelligence, and Tariq Mahar, the commander of Hezbollah's intelligence headquarters in Syria. Israel does not comment on specific strikes in Syria, but it has admitted to conducting hundreds of sorties against Iran-backed groups attempting to gain foothold near the Israeli border. The IDF says it also attacks arms shipments bound for Hezbollah and Iranian proxy. In a separate security matter, Khan Public Broadcast reported today that the Iranian air defense system were activated near a military base in the city of Isfahan in central Iran. Reports on social media said anti-aircraft systems were deployed to intercept a suspicious drone near an airbase of Iranian's Islamic Revolutionary Corps Guard.
The Navy's new 6-class corvettes purchased just 2 years ago are now fully operational. Breaking record time to become operational, the ships include chopper landing pad, accurate offensive abilities, longer ranges, and improved capabilities to face advanced threats. ILTV's Steve Leibovich reports.
3 of the 4 ships that the IDF purchased underwent improvements, which included the installation of 20 combat systems, most of them Israeli-made. The 4th warship is expected to be operational in the coming months. The SAR 6 is tasked with protecting the natural gas platforms developed off the Israeli coast, as well as keeping shipping lanes safe. The vessel is armed with electronic warfare systems. It's 80 meters long with a top speed of 28 knots and a range of 3,500 nautical miles. The vessel can also be used to deploy Special Forces units. The Navy says that the corvettes include the advanced Iron Dome defense to protect from airborne threats at sea. The S-80 is the Israeli Navy flagship vessel for the next decade. It's designed for stealth agility and cutting-edge capabilities in a variety of potential battle scenarios. In recent years, the Israeli Navy has begun to upgrade its entire combat fleet that includes new Dolphin-class submarines.
Right ahead of Memorial Day, President Yitzhak Herzog presented a new initiative named Kol Ha'am, or Voice of the People, to promote Jewish dialogue worldwide. Tonight I announced a landmark initiative, Voice of the People, the President's initiative for worldwide Jewish dialogue. This Global Council for Jewish Dialogue will host serious and strategic discussions about the challenges facing the Jewish people and advise me on them. President Yitzhak Herzog announced the launch of a new initiative to bridge the gap between Israel and diaspora Jewry at the opening ceremony of the annual Jewish Federation of North America's General Assembly on Sunday. The venture Kol Ha'am, Voice of the People, the President's initiative for worldwide Jewish dialogue, is between the President, the Jewish Agency, and the World Zionist Organization. Herzog explained that the vision of his Voice of the People's program is to create a first-of-its-kind the Global Council for Jewish Dialogue. It will be a place where we can engage in serious, sensitive, and strategic discussions on the most complex and pressing issues facing our people. A place where we formulate concrete proposals and action items to address them, but most importantly, a place to cultivate the next generation of Jewish leaders. I consider this to be its most important function, Herzog said. Jewish Agency Chairman Doron Almog also touched on the deepening rift between diaspora Jews and Israel in recent months, saying, "We have all been engulfed in the important and passionate public debate about Israel's very structure that has brought us all the way back to the Declaration of Independence 75 years ago." Not something you hear every day, a Jordanian member of parliament arrested by Israeli authorities due to an alleged smuggling of quantities of weapons and gold. Imad Adwan, a Jordanian member of parliament, was arrested over the weekend at the Allenby crossing on suspicion of attempting to smuggle weapons and gold in large quantities to Judea and Samaria, according to a report by the Jordanian Foreign Ministry. The customs officers, usually not supposed to inspect members of parliament, reportedly receiving intelligence information regarding the minister and therefore carried out an inspection. Israel has not yet responded officially to the report, but sources with knowledge of the matter say it is a very disturbing event because it involves a large number of firearms smuggled by a diplomat, but added that Israel wants to avoid any crisis with their neighbor to the east. Adwan resides in Salt, a city in central Jordan not far from Amman. He's a member of the Palestine Committee in the Jordanian parliament and an attorney with a master's degree in international law. Israel's security services work closely with Jordan on a variety of matters, including events on Temple Mount, and only last February, Israeli and Jordanian representatives met in the Jordanian capital to attempt to bring about regional calm. This incident is especially sensitive as relations with Jordan are of the utmost importance for Israel, with this case to still be continued. And on to something dear to our hearts. Right ahead of Memorial Day or Yom HaZikaron, we had the chance to welcome a dear sister, part of Matkonim Zikaron, or in its English version, Taste of Memories. It is a unique initiative working to commemorate fallen Israel Defense Forces soldiers and Israeli victims of terror through cooking their favorite recipes and telling the stories of their lives. Vicky Angel Cohen, sister of Shai Yosef Cohen, may his memory be of blessing, was here with us with his favorite dish. Vicky, thank you so much for being here with us. What can you tell us about your little brother, about Shai?
שי היה ילד מקסים וחייכן. אני הייתי אחותו הגדולה, והוא היה אחי הקטן. בגיל 12 הוא התייתם מאמו, ואני גידלתי אותו, והיינו מאוד קשורים אחד לשני. יש לי עוד אח ואחות יותר גדולים. הוא מאוד אהב להצחיק את האנשים ולהיות איתם, להיות בחברתם, וכולם אהבו אותו. הוא מאוד היה קשור לים, הוא גלש והוא היה עושה צלילות, וכל מה שקשור לים, כל הזמן הוא רק נסע לשחות ולהיות בים, ולעשות סרפינג וכל מה שאפשר בים. ולכן הוא גם התגייס לחיל הים. הוא גם למד בבית ספר מבואות ים, שהוא למד את מכונאות הימית, וזהו, בצבא הוא התחיל לשרת בחיל הים, ואז...
And he was 19, right, when he passed. What exactly happened to him? How did it happen?
מה שקרה זה, היה לו דירה שכורה, והוא היה צריך לממן את הדירה, אז פעם בכמה זמן היו נותנים לו מהצבא חודש חופשה כדי לעבוד ולממן את הדירה. אחי הגדול סידר לו עבודה בתחנת הכוח בחברת חשמל, והעבודה הייתה לנקות את בטן האונייה מהפחם שמגיע כדי לייצר חשמל. שישי שבת הוא היה בבית, יום ראשון הוא נסע לעבודה, ומה שהם היו עושים, הם היו מנקים את בטן האונייה, ולצערי ביום ראשון אחרי שהאונייה הייתה סגורה כל השישי שבת, היה מלא גזים רעילים מהפחם, ואיכשהו ירד לבטן האונייה, הוא נחנק כן, הוא נחנק מהגזים. הוא, אחר כך ניסו שני אחים להציל אותו, וגם הם נהרגו. זה היה אסון פחם שטלטל אותנו.
It's a well-known story, and it's incredible. Wow. And Vicky, I want to ask you, other than the story, you did something incredible. You joined מתכונים זיכרון, right?
Yes.
How did you hear about them?
לפני איזה 3 שנים ביקשתי להתנדב. כל מה שקשור לחיילים אני חייבת להתנדב, וקראתי על המתכונים זיכרון וביקשתי להתנדב, ובאמת גייסתי המון משפחות שיעבירו את המתכונים שהחיילים, הבת, האמא, האבא, לא משנה, מישהו שנהרג ואהב מאוד, ובמקביל לספרו גם את הסיפור של החייל, ולהפיץ את זה לכולם. וזה נראה לי קסום, במיוחד שזה גם בארץ וגם בחו"ל. אז נרתמתי לנושא, התנדבתי, וכמובן שגם את הנושא של אחי שילבתי במתכונים זיכרון, שזה פרויקט מקסים.
It definitely is. And what did you bring us today? Because the smells are incredible. I don't know if our viewers can smell it. Of course they can't. But what did you bring us here today?
אז שי אהב מאוד את הפשטדה שאבא שלי ממצרים, הוא היה מכין, זה פשטדת אטריות עם המון גבינות, והוא מאוד אהב לאכול את זה, וכל פעם שאני מכינה אני נזכרת בו.
And so it's actually a quiche, right, with cheese, and what else? What's actually the recipe? What's the secret recipe?
פשוט מאוד, זה רק גבינות, אטריות, חלב, ופשוט מכניסים הכל על זה, ויוצא מעדן שהוא טעים, וכל פעם הוא מזכיר את שי.
And if people want to know exactly how to make it, they can go into the website, right, of מתכונים זיכרון to see it. Vicky, if you could tell Shai something today, I mean, after so many years, what would be your message to him? What would you want to tell him after so many years?
עברו 35 שנה, ואני מאוד מתגעגעת. שום זמן ושום דקה לא עובר בלי לחשוב עליו, בלי להתגעגע אליו. גם אם עברו 35 שנה. המבט שלו, החיוך שלו, החיבוק שלו, חיבוק הדוב שלו, זה משהו שתמיד אני מתגעגעת אליו.
And what are you going to do during Memorial Day for him? What are you doing every year usually with the family?
כל שנה יש לנו ריטואל קבוע שאנחנו הולכים בערב לבית ספר הימי מבואות ים, לטקס, אחר כך ליד לבנים בחדרה, לאחר מכן אנחנו הולכים בבוקר למחרת, אנחנו הולכים לבית ספר היסודי ששי למד שם, בכל מקום יש פינה לזכרו, אנחנו הולכים לבית ספר קפלן שהוא למד שם, ואחר כך לטקס בבית הקברות, ב-11 לצפירה.
It's really touching, Shai's story, staying with us all with the recipes and all the stories, and thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
It's a true honor, and may his memory be a blessing.
Thank you.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies are expected around most of the country tonight with lows of around 11 degrees Celsius or 53 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we will see more sunny, clear skies alongside steady top temperatures, seeing highs of about 26 degrees Celsius or 79 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's all for today's news. For more updates from Israel on all your devices, check out our ILTV channel, subscribe to our ILTV newsletter, and do not forget to check out our new and improved website, ILTV.tv, with all of the latest news from the heart of the State of Israel. I'm Amit Harari. May their memory be a blessing. Happy Independence Day, and thank you so much for watching.